Welcome back to another FPL reaction stream. We're looking ahead to game week 6 and talking about all the weekend's action for game week 5. We've got one game left, Nottingham Forest against Burnley. I've only got Turner left, but I have a sneaky feeling he won't start and it'll be Vlaco Dimos. So Onana's 2-pointer off the bench is looking very likely, and game week 6 has been, sorry, not even game week 6, game week 5 has been a huge disappointment to say the least. You look at my backline and it was absolutely awful with the exception of Saliba, and him and Saka pretty much saved me this week, and my red arrow isn't as bad, significant, whatever you want to call it, as it would have been, because they produced some decent hauls. Saka got an assist, Saliba got a clean sheet and 2 bonus points, so that's 8 points overall. I've gone from 1.1 million to around 1.3. I'll talk more about this in the team selection video once Turner has played or not played. We'll wait and see, but let's get straight into your questions and let's see how everyone's doing this week. Hopefully there's someone here watching who has done well. That's going to be the big aim here today, and I might put my fan on at some point, and if you do hear it then let me know. I do apologize if that does get in the way, but this room is just too hot. What can I say? Roll Killer says next week is a good week. Alisson, Estupinian, Vardiol, Udogi, Saka, Mbumo, Son, Madison, Abon Alvarez, my captain, Haaland, Isak. The thing is, though, we all looked at game week 5 and we thought we'd do well because the fixtures look good and we were backing some of these underperforming players like Sterling and Jackson to finally get their shooting boots on, but football's not that simple, and game week 5 has been a very, very weird one to say the least. Rockler says my bench, Areola, Sterling, Gusto, Gay. So you benched those lot, that's surprising. Gusto, I think, got man of the match today, at least from the Premier League website. Gay obviously missed the game, and as for Sterling, he was just really disappointing. I mean, what was he doing? He was right in front of the goal, and it was a shot across, whatever it was, it pretty much went out for a throw-in. Rockler says I better get 93 points next week. I mean, hopefully you do well, but I'm sorry to say, don't set your hopes up too highly because FPL loves to disappoint you. Cylindra says, hey Dylan, ended this game week with 43 points. Happy that one of my 2 transfers worked out. Sold Jackson to Alvarez, but didn't go well for Foden to Son. Anyway, bring on game week 6. Yeah, I remember this, and you weren't the only one saying those 2 transfers. Other people were saying to do it for a hit, and I was saying no, and I would have given Jackson one more chance. That's what I said, and honestly, at this moment in time, Alvarez looks streets ahead of Jackson. There's no comparison, and I'd love to have Alvarez in my team, but I'd wait and see first until the Champions League happens for those that haven't bought Alvarez yet. But he's looking so tempting on UCL Fantasy and FPL. So good transfers. The Son one, you could say a bit unlucky. He didn't really do anything against Sheffield United, so he struggled against that low block, but I thought he'd score. He's got a great record against them at home. It just didn't really happen for him. Yeah, Jackson missed so many chances, that is true. My birthday and ordered Rashford, I feel for you. And obviously he had that assist disallowed, you could say, for Højlund, and you can make your case about it. There's a few people who think that it should have been allowed. Time to do wildcard. I'm not so sure because, yeah, a lot of us did poorly this week and we want to get in Salah and Alvarez, but we've only had 5 game weeks worth of information and we haven't even had the final game of game week 5 yet. So I would urge caution for a lot of people. I'm not saying that wildcarding now is, a catastrophe and you're going to do poorly, but if possible, just think about it over the week, reflect on it, because there is maybe the chance where saving the wildcard for at least a few more weeks and getting more data and you're more certain of your picks, that could be the way to go. But of course, that's not going to apply to everybody. If you've got so many files to put out and your team's an absolute mess, then fair enough. But you might be in a position where your team's not that bad, you just didn't score many points this week. Welcome, Mona, good to see you. Neil says 32 points, must be the worst game week ever. 8.9 million game rank. I feel for you, mate. I've got 39, so not great either. And if it wasn't for Saka and Saliba, I would be in the mud. So, yeah, it's just one of those weeks. I've had worse than this, trust me. Even from what you're saying, 8.9 million rank and 32 points, I've had worse. Akash says, hi Dylan, this game was very disappointing. I completely agree. I think we all thought 50, 60 points bare minimum, but it wasn't even that, to be fair. Yeah, let's go Gunners. I have to say, Goodison Park, if you've seen my tweets, you'll know my thoughts. Don't really hold back there. I honestly hate Everton and Goodison Park as an Arsenal fan. Yeah, but we'll not talk about that too much. But it was a big win for Arsenal. Declan Rice really impressive. David Rice's distribution was just top class, really. I think he misplaced 2 passes in the whole game. So some promising signs, but Arsenal need to kill games, and that's what let them down last season. Thoughts on Pedro Neto as a 1-week punt against Luton? I don't mind that as a 1-week punt, but I'll be honest, I don't like Pedro Neto long-term, even going into this season. After a good pre-season, I was still not convinced because I remember at the beginning of the last campaign, I had him in my team to start the season and he was absolutely awful for me. And his overall goals and assist record is terrible. But I like him as a player. He's a good dribbler. Against Luton, I would fancy anybody really. But longer term, I'm not so sure, of course. Thanks to Haaland, I didn't get my lowest ever FPL score. We can thank him for that, but Haaland, as we'll get onto very soon, he missed like 6 chances, or 5 big chances really. He had an awful game, but he scored in the end and it made up for it. So yeah, apart from maybe going against people in your mini league who don't have Haaland captain, you don't really gain too much from it, but fair enough. At least you didn't have your worst ever, points week, if we can say that. 40 points, says Cannon Fodder. Not too bad, to be honest. Depends on what rank you're at, but 40 points isn't the worst I've seen. 44 points, Turner to go. Hopefully he plays, gets a clean sheet, but I'm not really too positive about this, to be honest. 30 points, I'm in the mud. Yeah, you might be in the mud this week, but next week you do really well. So I wouldn't think too much about this game week. It's kind of a freak one. A lot of these lower owned players and players I'm never really going to consider in FPL have been scoring, so I wouldn't worry too much. Yoga says 22 points, Dylan. Turner Hall incoming though. Hopefully, but I'm still not so sure. I think Vlachodimos could get his spot as soon as game week 5. Hopefully not, but I'm very concerned about it, especially with the way this week has gone. You got Chilwell being benched, and then he comes on in the 96th minute, he makes a foul, gets a yellow card. Estupinian doesn't make the squad. Rico Henry comes off of an injury. So much has happened this week. I'm not really too positive about any of this. Milner says, bro, I had a 78-point feeling, and I got 30 with Awani left to play. At least you've got a decent striker left who can get you 5 to 10 points. Hopefully he does, but yeah, I think Awani has a good chance. He was in my best free hit team. Good luck with that. But yeah, it was the case of a lot of us this week. I do feel for you, but that's FPL for you sometimes, and you don't have to, think about it too much. Just move on to the next one, and we'll bounce back. So unfortunately, I'm not going to get through every single comment that's been posted. I'm going to try whiz through these. A lot of them are saying, the scores we've gotten. So Patrick says, hi Dylan, horrible week for me with 34 points and a big red arrow to 1.1 million. With which transfers are better? Jackson, Vardiol to Alvarez, Botman, or Jackson, Foden out for Alvarez, Rashford? Rashford looked lively. I know he was very greedy and United don't look great overall, but I have to say Rashford did look bright, but yeah, I probably would rather go for Alvarez and Botman. I think that's the better set of transfers, and I would like to keep Foden. I think he's been very impressive so far this season. Not his best game against West Ham, but I would like to have that second Man City attacker. Of course, you're going for Alvarez anyway, and maybe a triple up in City attack is too much, but for the time being, I think Alvarez and Botman looks better. The only problem is selling Vardiol, and I do like City defensively. There will be rotation, but yeah, it's a tricky one, to be fair. But I think I'd go for Alvarez Botman because Botman's cheaper, really good fixtures, and yeah, I just think he offers better value than Gvardiol. He will also start more games. Be aware that Newcastle could rotate in the weeks to come, but nowhere near as much as Man City will, in my opinion. 61 points, that's a really good score. That's the first one I've seen, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And without malice says 69 points. Yeah, Vegard, I completely agree. Who the hell did you have to get over 60 points? But fair play. Singh says, absolute horror game week. 33 points with Turner to go. 350k to 1 million. Wish I'd never gone for Jackson over Watkins two game weeks ago. Yeah, but the thing is with Watkins, I know he got an assist, but I have to say I don't think it was a penalty, which he got the assist from. I think Alvarez looks like by far the best second striker to partner Erling Haaland, so I'm kind of thinking I wish I went for Alvarez, to be honest. But Watkins is still decent, and Jackson, I mean, I don't know what's happening with him because he looked impressive in pre-season, really good for Villarreal, but it just hasn't clicked for him yet. Not me here shamming the song, says without malice, fair enough. Chilwell 0 points was frustrating. Yeah, because Chelsea kept the clean sheet. I actually know someone who brought in a Fulham defender in Robertson this week and he didn't start. He had an injury and Fulham kept the clean sheet. That's the worst sort of transfers, or the worst sort of scenarios where you have a player, their team keeps a clean sheet, but they come on or they don't play at all and you're left frustrated. Bar says, just transferred Jackson out for Alvarez. I do not have any more patience with that Chelsea team. They don't score goals. Fair enough, to be honest. I'm feeling the same way with Sterling, and I just brought him in a few weeks ago. Really, I look back on it now, yes, it probably was a reactionary transfer, I said at the time, but I also had the logic of Sterling's facing Forest. He scored both times last season. Obviously blanked against Bournemouth, his favourite opponent. He's won every single game against them. He's also got the most goals against any other team, but it just hasn't materialised, and he still faces Burnley very soon. So I think he will score over the next few game weeks, but you've got so many other midfielders who will probably outscore him in that time frame. So it's very difficult to keep patience with assets like Sterling and Jackson. Bar says Chilwell, Cole, Saliba to Botman for -4 worth it. I wouldn't sell Saliba. I know Arsenal don't have great fixtures. I don't see clean sheets against Spurs or Man City, but Bournemouth away, good chance of a clean sheet. And Saliba's very good for bonus points in these kind of narrow games like today. He got 2 bonus points, by the way, and he got 8 points overall. I'd rather sell Colwill from those 3, but you could even argue Chilwell because he's more expensive and that allows you to have money in the bank. So I'd definitely sell a Chelsea defender, and I'd still rather keep Chilwell for the attacking threat and sell Colwill. For a -4, though, is it worth it? I know Botman's facing Sheffield United, but probably not. I'm not so sure about that because you need Botman to keep a clean sheet, and if he does, you'll probably gain 2 points from that decision, assuming that the player you sell gets a 2-pointer. So I'm not so sure about a -4, but if I were to make a defender transfer in your scenario, it would be Colwill out for Botman. When did Jackson get booked? Must have blinked and missed it. I'll be honest, I don't know exactly which point of the game. I only watched that game in parts, and I have to say, Chelsea I know they sometimes create chances and they look decent, but I found their games quite boring sometimes, I'll be honest. Abu Jabir says, Rodrigo to Ward-Prowse, Diaby, Augusto to Botman. Ward-Prowse continues to impress, and he's been so consistent. I think that's 6 consecutive returns, dating back to his time with Southampton. But I'd probably go for Diaby there. I think he's my favourite. Augusto to Botman also looks really good. That's a great long-term move, but yeah, Rodri to Diaby, good move. I think that's worth it. And Gusto to Botman, to be fair, also another good move. But I'm a bit worried about possible rotation in the weeks to come with Newcastle having the group of death in the Champions League. 54 points with Turner left. Not bad, to be honest. I think that's pretty good. Country Music says, Turner tomorrow better save 2 penalties, keep a clean sheet, make 9 saves and get 3 bonus points. If he even does one of those things, I'd be very happy, to be honest. I think... yeah, I'm not really expecting much. Saliba has 2 bonus points. Yeah, it looks like it. According to livefpl.net, yeah, I think that's the name of the website. My man's all over the place at the moment. We'll have a look, actually, at the fixtures, and then you'll see, but I'm pretty sure he's got 8 points overall. Jared says Jackson and Rashford for Morris, Archer for Salah, -4. It's difficult for me to say no at the moment. I'd go for Morris for the double game week. He's also got good fixtures before and afterwards. And I know Luton Town have been very poor, but I think it's worth taking a punt on Morris and going for it. So I'd go for Morris and Salah for a -4. I think Rashford will do well, and he faces Burnley up next, and I have to say, I think he will do well. But with Jackson, yeah, my patience would be wearing very thin, to say the least. Colwill goal could have saved me. Yeah, true, that is true, but I still don't like him overall for goal threat. And Chelsea defence is... yeah, I know they kept a clean sheet this week, but I'm not really too keen on doubling up on them in any area, particularly in the defence. More than missing chances, Jackson is on 4 yellows. It's time to let go. That's a good point, actually. He's got more yellow cards than goals. I mean, imagine that he gets suspended if you keep him for 1 more week. So, yeah, it's not looking good for Jackson. I'll talk about him in the transfer tips video, I'm fairly sure. And spoiler alert, he's probably going to be on the red list. Dalipor says, is 55 points a good score this week? Definitely, you know, I'd bite your hand off for 55 points, honestly. That's a good score. Of course, it's all dependent on which rank you're at, but I think it's probably a green arrow in most scenarios. Do you think I should prioritise getting in Mbumo for Sterling or Botman for cash, says Malik? That's a good question. I think the priority would be Mbumo for Sterling. He faces Everton next at home. Mbumo's on penalties. He's also cheaper than Sterling. Very good underlying numbers. And Sterling and Chelsea are just so underwhelming. So I think both transfers are good, but I'd go for Mbumo. 61 points, good score. So I'm seeing quite a lot of 60-pointers there. I think those that had Alvarez and or Salah are the ones that mainly benefited this week, and also over the course of the first 4 game weeks as well. Are you keeping Maddison versus Liverpool? Yeah, I see no reason why to sell him unless, you know, I'm settled on wildcarding the week after and then I want to take a 1-week punt. And in that case, I could sell Maddison, but otherwise, I don't really see a need to sell him, to be honest. Chilwell, Estupiñán or Saliba for Botman? Probably Chilwell. I know the fixtures are still good and Chelsea kept the clean sheet, but yeah, if Estupiñán faces Bournemouth, I wouldn't sell him. Saliba's got Bournemouth away in game week 6, so in game week 7. So yeah, probably Chilwell from those 3 at the moment. Welcome, John Darren. Good to see you. Had Salah captain. I mean, that sums it all up. Ended up being blessed. Estupiñán to a doggy didn't go through, so I now have 2 free transfers. Yeah, a doggy got a 2-pointer, and you got Estupiñán for Bournemouth, so not too bad. Denon says, I took a -12 and got in Matoma, Gross, Estupiñán and Gabriel Jesus. Well, you've done it for next week. Is that what you've done? Gross, great record against Man United, 7 goals against them now, and a good FPL asset overall, but I'm not so sure if I'd bring in Matoma and Gross. I know they face Bournemouth next, but that's really just a 1-week punt, and to take a -12, I do think it's probably a bit overboard. Chilwell, Cole, Saliba to Botman, we have covered. Have 2 free transfers, but Wildcard is very tempting right now. We have more infos on squads, fixtures, and form. That's true, but I still think there's a few traps in there, and there's still a bit more information to gain over the next few weeks. So ideally, if you've got 2 free transfers, I would use them this week and then reassess in the weeks to come, and probably wildcard around Game Week 7 onwards. But I wouldn't wildcard just yet. Of course, I don't know your full team off by heart, Goldhead, but I have a sneaky feeling that saving the wildcard is probably the best solution to your scenario. Can we agree that Phil Foden is a great player, but never a great fantasy football asset? I think he was decent in UCL Fantasy a few years ago. In FPL, I agree he hasn't really been a great FPL asset at any point, only in short bursts over a 5-10 game week run. So I agree from that perspective, but he's the top assister so far this season, or joint top now. I think Foden is still a good asset. Is he as good as Alvarez? Probably not, especially given the start of this season. And I think in terms of Man City assets, he would be a bit lower than you'd think, but he's still right up there, probably 3rd or 4th overall, maybe 5th. And I think he's decent, just not great. You think Doucouré's penalty claim was fair? I'd need to rewatch it. Maybe the biased Arsenal fan in me will say no. I don't think it was a pen, but maybe someone in the chat will tell me otherwise. I thought it was a dive when I first saw it, but maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong or being biased. Who knows? Sell Jackson for Højlund. Højlund looked good. I know the goal was disallowed, but he looks a right handful, and I'd take anyone over Jackson at this moment in time, but I'd rather go for Alvarez, possibly Morris at the moment, and maybe Awani. But I see why you're going for Højlund, because the fixtures turn. Burnley have one of the worst defences so far this season. I think Rashford will score, do well, and Højlund could be another one there. Very strange for him to be taken off a bit early, probably because of fitness, but I think he should have stayed on. He was causing Brian some problems. So it's not a bad transfer. I'm actually not against that. Sell Gvardiol or Foden? Good question. I wouldn't sell neither, to be honest, against Nottingham Forest. That's my answer. I think what you need to do, Anthony, is wait for the Champions League game against Furness Vesada and then reassess. I wouldn't make a decision now. Wildcard draft. I won't do it now because there's probably going to be a wildcard video in a few days' time. So I'll talk more about that in the days to come. I've also got more UCL fantasy content. We've got the big one, the team selection video for match day 1, and maybe a chip strategy guide, which a lot of people are requesting, but that might be saved for match day 2 in UCL fantasy. But in terms of the wildcard video, probably later in the week. New Players Time says, hi Dylan, very disappointing game week. I'm looking forward to bringing Wilson or Højlund for Jackson. Thoughts? I actually said this before, so basically in the deadline stream yesterday, some Newcastle fans were saying that Wilson will start and Isak's benched and maybe save for the Champions League, and that's what has happened so far. So I'm not too sure about Wilson yet. I know the fixtures are great, but there will be rotation between him and Isak, and of course they can sometimes play both of them up front, and it could happen against Sheffield United, but with this tough Champions League group, I have a feeling it's just going to be one or the other on most occasions, at least for the foreseeable future. And that's why I'm not too keen on Wilson at the moment. I think he's good and he's still got some good stats per 90. But yeah, of course, anyone for Jackson looks good at the moment, but I'd maybe look elsewhere. I think Alvarez could be the best striker to buy right now. I know it might seem reactionary, but he's had a really good start to the season, even for Argentina, good performances, and I've rated him for a long time since he was at River Plate back in 2020, 21. So yeah, I think Alvarez is probably the one to get. Sell Saliba for which Newcastle defender? I wouldn't sell Saliba ideally. I know he faces Tottenham and Man City, but for that Bournemouth fixture in Game Week 7, I think it could be really important. But if you were to sell him, it would be Botman. I said this before yesterday, and I'll maintain it, so I haven't changed my mind because of bonus points. Botman is first, then Trippier, then Schär, in terms of my favourite Newcastle defenders, and probably assets as well at the moment. With Turner to go, I'm on 30 points, and that's not too sure that Turner will start or not. Exactly that. Hopefully he starts for your sake and does well, but yeah, don't worry. We'll move on. We'll do better next week, and trust me, you can do extremely well in Game Week 6, despite what happened now, basically. Sell Jackson for whom? Can't buy Alvarez, as I have Haaland, Gvardiol, and Foden. Fair enough. Maybe Morris, I think, would be up there. Højlund's a good shout by a few viewers in the chat. And I also think, I mean, to be honest, even Wilson's not a bad shout, but I think I'd mainly look towards Morris, Awani, or probably Yeah, I'd give Højlund a punt, I think. The only issue with Højlund is a double up in United attack. I'm still not keen, despite the fixtures being great, and I think United will turn things around, but it's not enough for me to advocate a double up in their attack. So my answer is probably Morris. Mutalib says, I've already transferred in Bowen for March and Morris for Mbama for a -4. Fair enough. The thing is with Jared Bowen, wait, you're buying Bowen in for March? I'm a bit confused about that. Let me know, because Brighton, obviously, they play Bournemouth, and with Jared Bowen, buying him in for a hit against Liverpool, not too sure about that. Of course, long term it should pay off. He's a good asset at the moment, and also James Ward-Prowse, but yeah, I'd be a bit careful about that midfielder transfer. Morris for Mbama, though, looks really good. Excuse me. 44 points, Turner, now we need to go. What do you think? If Turner starts, I think you've got a good chance of reaching 50+ points. I think it's quite realistic, but if Turner doesn't, then it will be a bit trickier. You should get to 50 points, I think, and especially if Turner starts. That's my kind of assumption there. Good luck. Udogie or Kabore to start? Good question. Probably Kabore at first glance. I know Udogie's got the assist threat. I wouldn't rule him out getting an attack in return, but I don't see him keeping a clean sheet against Arsenal. If they do, then something went terrifically wrong for the Gunners. I hope Turner doesn't play because I got Leno on my bench. Fair enough, but Turner can get a clean sheet of his own, but I see what you mean. The way this week's going, you don't really trust Nottingham Forest defensively either. Yeah, let's wait and see. I'm hoping that Turner does start. I don't want those another 2 points off my bench. What a game, okay? 45 points isn't too bad, though, but I get what you mean. It's a pretty bad week. FPL week. That's a good way of summing up, Gary. That's a good idea for a title, to be fair. JRP says 47 points with Turner left to play, hoping to break 50 points. If he starts, then I'd say he has a decent chance there. But I'm not too sure about it. 41 points, says John Darren. Yeah, it could be worse, so I'll put it that way. Yeah, 25 or 1 left, worst week ever. That is a bad score, but look, don't worry. Next week could be much different, and honestly, it's a bit of a freak anomaly this week. Start Udogie or Chilwell next week. Still Chilwell for me. Slightly better chance of a clean sheet. I think he'll start against Aston Villa, but not a guarantee, to be fair, after what we saw today. Turner hat-trick coming, let's go. Let's wait and see, you know. Maybe we'll do Alisson against West Brom and score a goal. Milner says, so Dylan, I'm getting rid of all the Chelsea assets. Going to do Sterling to Diaby off the Conference League. And who should I get instead of Chilwell? Got Cash, Udogie, Kabore, Trippier. Good question. The thing is, as a 1 week punt, I like Estupinian a lot, or any Brighton defender for that matter, maybe Lamptey, but I'd look at Estupinian. He should come back into the side. Apart from him, I like Man City defenders against Nottingham Forest. It's just about getting the right one. Akanji seems the most nailed on. So, yeah, I'd say Estupinian or Akanji is up there. I've got 91 points. No way. If you did, fair play, mate, because that's like literally triple my score almost. That's incredible. Horrendous game week, yeah. Maybe not for SA 5 stars, if he's not lying, but yeah, for a lot of us, it was pretty bad. Ali, number 11, let me know how I say it, says Chilwell, Saliba and Jackson to Trippier, Botman and Alvarez -4. I like the players you're bringing in, I have to say that. Really good players. I think the hit will pay off, but I still like Saliba and maybe Chilwell for the next 3 or 4 game weeks. So that's the only thing I will say. But overall, yes or no, are they good transfers? Yes, definitely. Will Alvarez become Pep Roulette? I mean, Pep literally said he's undroppable, so that probably means he's being benched against Werner Svesta or against Nottingham Forest. Hopefully he plays both. That'd be great. I'd love to buy him for my FPL team and UCL Fantasy team, but I'll talk more about that in the Matchday 1 team selection for UCL Fantasy tomorrow. You think Trossard might be a punt if Martinelli is out? Yeah. I still think he could be rotated, though, because Arsenal have PSV midweek. They've also got Spurs. Then they've got Brentford in the Cup. And Martinelli's injury might not be that bad, but knowing Arsenal and Martinelli, I think it could be a few weeks. Let's wait and see. Hopefully it isn't anything serious, but that's just rotten luck for Martinelli. He scores, it's disallowed very contentiously, and then he is coming off injured just a few minutes after. That's literally just a disastrous set of 3 minutes. 48 points, lost out on 6 points from Haaland, but still a green arrow to 180k. That's positive. And it just goes to show you don't always need to captain Haaland, but makes it very difficult when only Salah, really, from the popular options, outscored him. Maddison 1 point, Son with a 2-pointer. So really disappointing. 2 DNFs in Russell and Sonoda and 30 points in FPL. Bring on Champions League, Dylan. Yeah, but F1 was good today. You know, F1's always like that. There's one driver or team dominating in most years, but I think today was quite a good tactical race, and the ending was quite impressive. You had a feeling the Mercedes would win the race in the end, but yeah, I think from that perspective, it wasn't great. Liverpool comeback will cost them later this season. They need to start games better. Yeah, that's true. I think Liverpool were battered in the first few minutes, and in the first half, you'd give Wolves the edge overall, but Liverpool in the second half showed their quality, but I agree, you can't keep on doing that. It's like Man United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, comeback kings, great away record, all this stuff, but it's not sustainable in the long term. I thought about wildcarding, but gonna wait until Game Week 9. Yeah, I mean, look, there's no set formula. Every team is different. Wildcarding now could be the right thing for you, but I think for most people, waiting a bit more, maybe until Game Week 8 or 9, is probably the right call. Nice 55-point return from Botman, Alvarez, Sakhalin, and Diaby. Yeah, it is a good game week. Not the greatest score on paper, but compared to the average and getting that green arrow, that's all that matters. So good stuff. If I don't wildcard, I'm looking at Watkins and Bruno to Alvarez and any midfielder. Any thoughts? Which midfielders do you have already, Goldhead? That would be my question. I like Diaby, so if you don't have him, he'd be a really good shout. Also had that goal disallowed yesterday, so a bit unlucky. But I really like Diaby at the moment. What do you think of a Salah Haaland team with cheap defence? Well, at the moment, if I'm being honest, if I'm wildcarding, I'd have Salah in. I said this last week too. I know it does limit you a little bit in terms of your squad depth and maybe your starting 11 quality, but I think it's worth it at the moment. And with Chilwell being frustrating today, and you've also got all these other issues, I think it's definitely worth going for Salah and Haaland if possible. You can go for Alvarez up front. He's not too expensive, so it's definitely doable. Sell Chilwell or Gusto to Botman. I'd still rather sell Gusto because Reece James is on the verge of recovery. He could be back in the squad soon. And with Chilwell, I'd expect him to start against Aston Villa. It's weeks like this where I'm glad I own Salah. Exactly that. Mr. Consistent, just like Harry Kane last year. And Salah's currently on one of his best ever FPL runs. Who would you start in defence next week, says Bar. I got Saliba, Doggy, Chilwell, Cole, Stupinian. If Stupinian isn't up for debate, he has to start unless he's ruled out, basically. So Stupinian in. I'd go for Chilwell and probably Saliba if I had to pick three. Well, you have to pick three, of course. It's a bit stupid for me to say, but you know what I mean. Time for wildcard. Like I said, I'm not too sure. It all depends on the team. Maybe in your case, it's the right thing to do, but just wait on it a little bit, I'd say, in terms of thinking over it. And if you're absolutely sure by the time you wake up tomorrow, just press the button. I'm free hitting. What do you recommend team-wise? Obviously, it's early days. I'd like to think on it a little bit more. I know it's a reaction stream and stuff like that, and I'm supposed to give my off-the-cuff opinions, but I'd say Brighton double, triple up is definitely viable. So is Stupinian in, maybe Mitoma, Ferguson, if we get rumours of him starting. I'd really like Ferguson. I'd say double, triple Man City, so a Kanji, possibly Haaland and Alvarez, if they start, of course. That's the big question. Yeah, I think those are the sorts of options I'd be looking at. Also, United still, I'd go for Rashford. I think he'll do well against Burnley. So I'll talk about this. I'll try to do a free hit video as well. There's a lot to do this week. I'll try to get it all done for UCL Fantasy and FPL, but there will be a best free hit team if I can find the time, for sure. Sonny says, hi Dylan, hope you're doing well. Jackson, Chilwell to Alvarez and Share. I'd say yes overall. It's worth it. I think Chilwell will start against Aston Villa, but overall, good transfers. I do prefer Botman over Share, though. It has to be said. Bonus points are Trossard 3, Raya 2, Zinchenko White 1. Really? Oh, that's a shame because Saliba was on for 2 bonus points when I checked. Let's actually have a look. Let's go through some different screens. I'll go back to your questions. I apologise if I haven't been able to go for everything. But we'll get to it eventually, trust me. But let's go to livefpl.net. I'm going to refresh the page. As you see there, it says Saliba 8 points, but yeah, he's gone down to 6 for Christ's sake. Does that mean I didn't even get 39 points? I got 37 overall. So, yeah, I'm just going to make a few changes to my rank and stuff like that. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to update them now. So basically, my red arrow is not 200,000 places, but by 500,000 places. So a bad game week so far. Only Turner can really save me. If he doesn't start, then it's just an honest 2 pointers, 2 points coming off the bench. But let's go through some different screens here. So the FDR, Luton Town are top, Burnley second, Aston Villa, Liverpool, Newcastle complete the top 5. And as for those in the bottom, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Bournemouth, Arsenal, and Sheffield United, even Chelsea are on the brink. Spurs not too far off as well. But let's actually make a few changes to the graphics on screen. Maybe not right now, but you'll see it when I go to other screens. So let's change this. Overall rank, amazing. I love to see these red arrows. It's becoming a common theme here this season. So let's change that. And then we'll get back to your questions very shortly. I also want to show you the stats for Erling Haaland, which were absolutely ridiculous. I think those that didn't captain him were very fortunate this week, to say the least. He really should have scored a hat-trick, I think. That's probably the minimum he should have done with the chances he had. So that's done. Let's also take away the 2 points from my Gameweek score. RIP, Dylan RCM. 37 points for me this week. Jesus, that's absolutely amazing. All right, that's that. And let's go to the overall points. So instead of 292, that is going to be 290. Amazing. All right. That is going to be done. Don't worry. You're not going to be staring at these fixtures forever. All right, that is done, I think. All right, so we'll talk more about this in the deadline stream as well, but predicted points at the moment, Haaland is top and by a landslide, 10.4. Salah's second with 7. Saka is third. Bruno Fernandes fourth. Foden is fifth. I have to say, Rashford for me is going to be right up there. I'd put his name in the hat for the captaincy, and in terms of the top 3 or 5 highest scoring players in Game Week 6, you've got Foden, Odegaard, Rashford, Martinelli, and Mbeumo, and Alvarez also completing the top 10. But like I said, watch out for Rashford. I think Alvarez as well against Forest is a good bet. And in terms of price changes, not too much yet, but Mbeumo could be on the verge of a price rise in terms of those going down. Isak, and then some pretty random players there as well. But yeah, we'll talk more about this as the week progresses. And also a draft hound. I wonder what they're going to say to do this week. They're saying Watkins to Alvarez, and that's literally what I'm thinking. I'll talk more about this in the team selection video, of course, in more detail. But this could be my one free transfer. But it all depends on, you know, the circumstances. Is Estupiñán going to be available for Game Week 6? I think so. Rico Henry, is his injury serious? So there's a few question marks about my backline. I've got Saliba facing Tottenham, Udogie, of course, in that same fixture. Chilwell's not looking particularly great facing Aston Villa. But if things are looking not too bad in the defence, my plan is to do something like this. Watkins to Alvarez, and I think that could be a great transfer. But let's see if rotation doesn't kick in for Pep Guardiola and the undroppable Julian Alvarez. And the last thing I want to show you is the stats. Just look at these numbers. They're absolutely ridiculous. So on the left-hand side, you can see Erling Haaland. Actually, let me change this a little bit. So I'm going to show you his stats for the first... Well, yeah, we'll do it like this. So the first 4 game weeks, you can see Erling Haaland's stats. So he had 6 goals, 1 assist, and 4 appearances, 20 shots in the box, all of this stuff. But look at this. In terms of big chances, Haaland had 6 alone against West Ham. That is only 1 less than Haaland has had in the first 4 game weeks of the season. Absolutely ridiculous. The only things that are really up compared to what Haaland did against West Ham are the creativity numbers. 9 shots in the box, 9 shots overall, 6 on target. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. But he got that goal in the end, and you can't really deny him that goal. His record is absolutely insane. More goals than games played, but he really should have scored 2 free goals minimum. Captain Son, says Islam, yeah, he didn't really do anything yesterday. At least he got away with one, I'd say, because Haaland only got a 6-pointer. Dropped from top 70k to 300k, but still a good rank to be in. I know it's disappointing, but it's not too bad, I'd say. Thank you, Godhead. I appreciate it. Hi, Dylan. Okay with free Chilwell, Estupiñán, Botman, Udogie, Saliba? I think I answered this. If not, it's probably similar to another team, but I'd say Estupiñán, Botman, and probably Chilwell. That's my back 3 from those you said. Thank you, John, as well. I appreciate it. Have Chilwell, Sterling, Jackson. I know the fixtures are still good for Chelsea over the next 3, but yeah, I think trimming that down is probably the best thing to do. Sounds like everyone wants Dylan to pick their team for them. Oh, yeah. Hopefully not. Are you holding on to Watkins? It's not set in stone yet, and Watkins is still decent, but I am considering a move to Alvarez. I have to say that. And also in UCL Fantasy, Alvarez is right on my radar. 61 points, Captain Salah, Turner to play. Yeah, good luck, Clark. Good score. You're in a good position. Even if Turner doesn't play, it's not the end of the world. I'm so sick of Jackson and Watkins. Definitely selling one of them for Alvarez. Which one, though? I'd rather sell. It's tough because Jackson has better fixtures over the next 3, but Watkins' fixtures are better long term. But you might wildcard around game week 8 or 9. It really just depends. But I'd rather keep Watkins right now, to be honest. And I think he scored at Stamford Bridge last season. I'm going to try and go back up the chat and then make my way all the way down and go very quickly. But yeah, it's kind of a difficult one. In terms of those asking for wildcard drafts, I'm not going to do one today because I'm probably going to make a video on it very soon. So there's no point going into details. If I produce something now, it's probably going to be quite different to a video I make where there's more thought put into it. I had a stink of this game week. You're not the only one, Junta. You aren't the only one. Let me rephrase my question. Do you think double United attack is worth holding? I mean, in terms of fixtures, of course, it looks like a decent punt to hold, and it's a nice differential for you. But personally, I don't like that double up. I know Burnley, it could really pay off, but then the weeks after that, I'm still not too sure. So I'd say no. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards. I know they can do really well against Burnley. That includes Højlund, Rashford and Bruno, but my personal opinion is to diversify the attack if possible. Is Morris okay to start home to Wolves? Yeah, I think so. Of course, if you do buy him or if you've got him already, the main appeal is double game week 7. Welcome, Luke. I'm at 770k. I'm not too bad. No, I don't think so. Thinking Chilwell to Trippier and Watkins to Rasmus. Yeah, there's a lot of Rasmus love at the moment. I can understand that. And I think he'll do well against Burnley. He looks like a right handful for defenders, but yeah, if you can go for it, I would go for Alvarez. I think that's my favourite forward at the moment. He is becoming that clear standout. Yeah, true. Edouard is doing extremely well. He was a skip, I think, in last week's video or the week before that. I still don't trust him long term, but he keeps on delivering really good underlying numbers, so it might not be a fluke. Thank you, Potter. I appreciate that. Chaotic says 29 points and have to deal with potential Martinelli injury. Isak, Baldock, Semenyo. Yeah, I do feel for you there. And in that sort of scenario, maybe you could wildcard, maybe, if you've still got it. You know, that's the sort of scenario where you could seriously consider using it right now. But look, 29 points or not, your team is probably still good overall. Just a bit of bad luck, as tends to be the case in FPL. Let me go back to my team. I think the bonus points have been added. So yeah, good returns by Saka and Saliba, but unfortunately Saliba has been removed from the bonus points, and on the left hand side you can see my updated points and rank. So it has changed during the stream. I think Saliba probably was removed from the bonus points towards the very end of the Everton game. I've had a stinker, 33 points and turn it to play, 38 points, horrible gaming, says Mustafa. So very similar scenarios for a lot of us, but there are some people here watching with 50 plus points, like Robert Blair, who might have had Alvarez and or Salah, and I think that was the key difference. Turner still to play. I also read my transfer. Botman for Chilwell was my first transfer. Yeah, I think that looks pretty solid. You're in good shape. I don't know what your 50-man squad is per se, but not too bad. 47 points to Summit, good stuff. I got 57 points on my wild card, could have got more, as I had Botman on the bench and could have started Areola over Alisson. To be honest, though, I think we all would have started Alisson over Areola. That's not a mistake. It's just Areola making a lot of saves. He was really good for West Ham, it has to be said, but Liverpool were absolutely battered in the first half. None of us expected that. And Botman on the bench, to be honest, I thought Brentford would score, so not a bad decision either. Diaby or Ward-Prowse in. I still prefer Diaby, but Ward-Prowse has been very consistent. Is Morris a good differential for Wolves at home? I think he's decent, but like I said, my main kind of argument for Morris is double game week 7. Sterling, Foden, Watkins to Salah, Alvarez, Diaby for a -4. I'd say yes, but selling Foden against Forest is a big question mark. That's my only concern. But Alvarez and Diaby in look great. I'm guessing you've already got 2 City players, you know, even if you sell Foden, so that's the only way to get that Alvarez spot. But yeah, do we get Watkins till the fixtures term? I'll talk about this as the week progresses, but I'd say if Alvarez looks absolutely undisputed, he's going to start every game, get 70 plus minutes at the very least, I'd probably go to him. That would be my inclination. But Watkins isn't the worst option in the world. You know, there's probably worse out there. 45 points, captain on was Jackson. Yeah, good score considering the captaincy, and yeah, Jackson, just too many yellow cards. Daniel says 38 with Turner and Lyle Foster to play. My punt for the next few game weeks, I don't know why. You never know, maybe it will be a stroke of genius, but 38 isn't the worst. And yeah, hopefully Turner gets that start. 91 says Nago, yeah, exactly. Is Morris a good differential? Yeah, we covered. I'll try not to go for the same questions just to for the benefit of viewers. Should I wait for UCL to buy Alvarez and want to sell Chilwell? Exactly. Wait until the Champions League has happened, and if you're buying in the likes of Diaby, wait for the Conference League games to also happen. You never know. Injuries happen, and there could be some concerns there. 51 says Karim, 29 points says Chaotic. Yep. Top manager got 100 points of bench boost. Crazy. Fair enough. I mean, the thing is with those at the top using all their chips, they're using them already. They're probably going to go down, but of course, I'd rather be in their position than where I am. That's for sure. Who to play next week, Maddison or Son? Good question. I mean, I'd still start both. You know, I think they can both cause problems to Arsenal. I think Son might be more likely to score. I think he's slightly better in terms of his prospects next week. So probably Son if I had to pick one. But Maddison's absolutely incredible at the moment. Even though he got 1 pointer this week, really good performance. Probably 7 or 8 out of 10. Unlucky maybe not to win a penalty as well. So yeah, difficult to say that, but maybe Son. If he plays down the middle, of course, which might be in doubt. That's what Maddison has. You know what he's going to play. You know what you're going to get. With Son, it's all about the what-ifs and is he going to play in this position and all of that. What to do is still now, says Weiseng. Yeah, what to do now? It's difficult because obviously he kept a clean sheet. I think with still, I'd sell, to be honest. I think I'd sell. With the goalkeeper rotation there, you know, it could be still starting against AEK Athens or maybe in the next game against Bournemouth, but it's just too many headaches. I know it's very frustrating, but I'd probably consider selling him if you can. Not for a hit, though. Is Foden a hold medium term? I'd say so, but Alvarez is my preference. What are we saying on Sterling? I mean, it's very difficult to make a case for him. I think he will return over the next 3 game weeks, but is it enough? Not so sure, to be honest. I think that Burnley fixture looks the best, but it's not looking great. I think Aston Villa could cause problems to Chelsea. Wouldn't surprise me if they drop points, and Chelsea just don't look like they can score at the moment, so it's really difficult to make a case for him. Doku to start again. Well, with the injuries to Grealish, I think he's got a really good chance of starting in the Champions League and in the Premier League, but rotation is always possible with Pep Guardiola. You know that. But I'm actually considering Doku for my Champions League fantasy team, as I'll talk about. I want a Newcastle defender. My defenders for Game Week 6 are Chilwell, Stupinian and Gvardiol. Other two are Kabore and Saliba. Should I get a Newcastle defender for Game Week 6 or roll the transfer? Your defenders aren't too bad this week, to be fair. I'd probably roll the transfer, but I can see why you're interested in Newcastle defenders. Thorsten Edouard, yeah, he's been doing really well. Great underlying numbers. But like I said last week, still a skip for me. The fixtures aren't particularly great in the short term, and I still would prefer going for Alvarez, even Awini, and a few other forwards. Botman, 9 points on the bench. Yeah, but to be honest, a lot of us expected Brentford to score, so not the worst decision. I got 22 points this week, man. I need something. Yeah, I mean, it's a bad score, but once again, we can definitely recover next week, and it's a bit of a freak outlier what happened today, yesterday, and throughout the whole weekend. 40 points with Turner to play, had an awful week. Yeah, let's see what Turner can do. Maybe he can salvage something. I'm not too sure about the Yusuf because, as you see, there are alternatives against him like Salah. But I have to say, Haaland should have scored 2 or 3. I said this like 2 or 3 times now, so I'm going to stop, I promise. But I think non-captainers were extremely lucky. That's my takeaway from it. So I can see what you mean there, but there will be opportunities to go against him. 31 points, say, imagine crying with 40. Yeah, I mean, yeah, some people were like 45 or 50 and, you know, they're not even sure if that's good. I promise you it is good. I have Rashford, Maddison, and Mbumo, Saka, Bruno. If I sell Bruno, I don't see a clear option, to be honest. Only short-term options. Yeah, I think in your situation, I'd keep the midfielders you have. You know, unless you're considering a wild card in the next week or 2 and you want 1 week punts, then you could do Maddison to Mitoma, but it's not worth it really. And Maddison can still do well against Arsenal and Liverpool. So I think your midfield is fine as it is, despite United being extremely disappointing. If United don't score 2+ against Burnley, I think that's majorly concerning. I know their start to the season already is, but honestly, Burnley are there for the taking. Thoughts on Wilson? Look, if you can get a consistent run of starts, I like him, but you know, when you've got him and Isak fully fit, there's going to be rotation there in the Champions League, and I'm not really too keen on that. Yeah, Milner, I mean, that's the thing, though. I'm basing off my predictions. I thought Brentford would score. I think I went for a 2-1 Newcastle. But there you go. That's why sometimes just don't listen to me. That's basically my takeaway. If only Chilwell didn't come in, Botman would come on from the bench. Yeah, but You know, as soon as I saw Chilwell benched, I knew he was going to come on for one pointer. I know he couldn't even do that. He got a yellow card as well. Could just sell Watkins and roll, give Bruno one more chance. Yeah, I'd rather do that, to be honest, especially if you can do Watkins to Alvarez. I think that's probably the better transfer, but wait until the Champions League has taken place. Start Morris or Maddison. I'd still go for Maddison, I think. Doku an option, potentially. He did give the ball away for the first goal, but he was so direct, very, very impressive. Probably in the top 3 City performers yesterday. But I'd still prefer Alvarez FPL-wise. I am considering Doku in UCL Fantasy because of his price, and you can make a similar case for him in FPL, but I think Alvarez is the way to go. Worcester replacement, have Haaland, Alvarez, and 0.8 million in the bank. Yeah, Worcester was disappointing, but I don't think he played necessarily badly yesterday. And he's got Everton next, so I'd probably keep him. Sterling for Mbumo, Wissa for Alvarez. I mean, yeah, that sort of scenario, fair enough, I'd do that. Wissa can do well against Everton, but Alvarez is probably the better pick long term, but still quite early days. It's close, I think, between those two, but Alvarez looks so good. Ferguson against Bournemouth could be a good shout. Yep, I mentioned him in terms of free hit suggestions for a few viewers. Spurs, Liverpool, Brighton, Arsenal, Newcastle, rank it. In terms of what, though? In terms of, you know, best team right now or FPL wise, let me know. It all depends on that context. Who to play next week, Jesus or Maddison? I'd probably favour Jesus, but the only issue there is, will he start, will he not? That could be a big concern. But there's not much good options around Steele's price. I agree. I think Flecken and Leno are probably the best, but Leno's fixtures aren't great, actually, over the next 4 or 5. I don't see many clean sheets. So I see what you mean there. Play Solanke or Haaland. Always play Haaland, of course. Still have a dilemma on which goalkeeper to have. Yeah, exactly. This is what I mean when I was talking about the wildcard video a few days ago. I don't think there's a clear standout goalkeeper. I went for Alisson in that video. I also mentioned Leno and Flecken, but I don't think there's a particular great option at the moment. Such a bad week, 31 all out. What do you think of Edouard for Jackson? Edouard's looking great at the moment, but I do prefer alternatives like Alvarez, Awani, and I still prefer Watkins overall, to be honest, but not a bad shout. Edouard's doing really well, and if you back Crystal Palace to continue to do well and for Edouard to be in and amongst the goals, it's not a bad shout. Welcome, Geotip. Bought in Alvarez and Botman for Wissa and Chilwell. Fair enough. I think Wissa and Chilwell could do well next week, but yeah, Chilwell, probably not a clean sheet against Villa. Let's wait and see how it all develops. Keep or sell, Jesus, Maddison, Bruno, Rashford. I mean, it's probably a keep for all of them, to be honest. That's my takeaway. Unless you can do Jesus to Alvarez, you've got that free City spot. In that case, I'd probably do that. Goalkeeper Onana and Areola. Not too bad. I know Onana's been terrible, but Burnley away is a good chance for a clean sheet and the games afterwards. Can Trossard be trusted for Gameweek 6? Not necessarily. Yeah, and if Martinelli's back from injury, you know, sooner than expected, then that's just going to be a big concern. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of love for Edouard, for Højlund as well. Fair enough, you know, they're good shouts. I do have my preferences, as I said from the beginning of the season, even Wissa for me. But yeah, they're good shouts. Eze still a big flop. I mean, it's surprising for me. I thought he'd be Palace's best asset by far, but it looks like Edouard at this moment in time. Eze is a good player, but FPL-wise, he has been disappointing. How important is Newcastle defence in our team? It's not essential, but I think one defender is definitely fine, and even a double up could prove fruitful. But yeah, I think Botman is enough for now, and if you want to target that attacking threat, the bonus points potential, then Trippier, of course, could be worth the extra millions. It all depends if you've got Salah or not, and if you've got that money available to you, but yeah, I think Botman is a decent option. You know, a good rotation with Rico Henry if he's fit, Saliba, Doggy, etc. Team for Gameweek 6 is Flecken, Estupinian, Trippier, Cash, Mbumo, Diaby, Bruno, Saka, Maddison, Wissa, and Haaland. Bench for Cario, Doggy, Awani, and Kabore. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I wouldn't start Kabore over Maddison, to be honest. I'd just start the Spurs player, and that's it. Yeah, I agree, Wei-Sing. I said it earlier as well, but we'll keep it PG on here. Sell Chelsea players. I'd say so. If you've got a triple up, I'd definitely trim down. That's for sure. And with Jackson, 1 yellow card away from suspension, terrible performances, just really poor finishing, I think it has to be said, Jackson is probably the easiest to sell at the moment. Watch him score next week. 44 points for me. Not bad, I have to say. -4 for Edison, Darwin to Leno Alvarez after Champions League. Overall, I think it will pay off, but I don't like hits for goalkeepers, and I don't see many clean sheets for Leno over the next 5, it has to be said. If you are looking to wildcard soon, I'd say no. Don't do that Edison to Leno transfer. Try to find another move instead. I think FPL.team is broken. My expected points decreases by 2.3 when I sell Watkins for Alvarez. I think it's because they haven't fully updated the algorithm to take into account that Alvarez is a guaranteed star at the moment, or, he's going to play most minutes. His role is completely different compared to how it was with De Bruyne. They may as well have another week off for internationals. Yeah, that's true, Gary. I actually wasn't missing FPL too much, I'll be honest. That algorithm is not right. Maybe not for that, but they have got some good numbers elsewhere. What are you thinking for your team? Early days, but Watkins to Alvarez is a serious possibility. If I've got a lot of defensive issues, such as a Estupinian injured, which I don't think will be the case, if Rico Henry's out long term, then it might be a Botman or Trippier in. I'd love to have Salah, I'll be honest. But in order to get him, I need to take a -8. I'm not going to do that, really. So, yeah, I think for me, Watkins to Alvarez is a pretty good possibility. Not set in stone, though. Actually, I don't think Chelsea problems on Poch. The quality of players are poor. Yeah, look, I'll be honest. I'm not even trying to throw shade, but I look at the Chelsea lineup today and it's really average, in terms of quality. There are some really good young players in there, obviously Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, who's missing today. But you look at so many players and they're so average. For Gallagher to be one of the best performers, I mean, it says a lot, really. To spend that much and have that quality is very, very strange. This season feels punishing, involving captains, so many random blanks. Ended up at 10k last year. Now at 3.5 million. I wouldn't look too much at rank at this stage. Trust me, there's a long way to go. Not much to separate all these ranks. One good game week could put you right up there again into the top million. So don't worry about that too much. But I agree, there's a lot of variance at the moment. A lot of random players delivering, and these kind of popular options are really disappointing right now. And actually, once again, I talked about this last week, there is this curse of the most transferred in player. In game week 2, I think it was Chilwell, he blanked. Game week 3, it was Mbumo, blanked. Sterling game week 4, blanked. And this time, Heung-min Son, blanked. Who should I sell Jota for? 0.9 in the bank. I don't know who you have, to be honest. That makes it more difficult for me to say a name off the top of my head. But I like Brighton players for 1 week punt, like Matoma. But I think really what you want to look for is maybe a Foden, although Alvarez is my preference. I like Man United midfielders this week. I think Rashford particularly looks great. Salah, if you can afford it, I mean, that'd be great. Of course, you've got 0.9 million, so unfortunately not going to be the case. I'm not too sure if Jota starts as well next week, so I can see your frustrations. So yeah, it just really depends. Let me know who your midfielders are, and then I can give you a definitive answer. Nicholas Jackson, every time he touches the ball, 50% chance he's going to fall. Fair enough. Yeah, it's kind of, surprising. I thought he'd do well, score maybe 2 goals in his first 5 games, have good performances overall, but just hasn't happened for him. I think Watkins is an okay hold. Yeah, I agree. It's not a priority sell. It's just really targeting Nottingham Forest at home and targeting Alvarez's hot, red hot, iron hot form, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, it's kind of an aggressive transfer, maybe reactionary as well. Sterling to Saka or Sterling to Salah? I wouldn't buy Saka this week necessarily. I think Sterling to Salah. If you've got the money, I think that's the way to go. Oh, West Ham massive, says Tech. I don't think so. Potential Matoma replacements. I wouldn't sell Matoma this week. The only concern is rotation with Fati. So maybe Matoma plays against Athens and then Fati plays against Bournemouth. But I think it'll be the other way around. So I'd wait for the lineup against Athens. And if Fati starts, I'd be quite happy to keep Matoma for 1 more week. Everyone in my team except Haaland and Saka got 1 point. Yeah, it's just one of those weeks, mate. I feel for you. Yeah, don't worry about it too much. Keep or sell Maddison and Son? Keep. Especially Maddison long term. I think Maddison is a great option still. 1 week punt for Game Week 6, any position. Ferguson off the top of my head. If he starts, I think he's really good. Diaby in or Ward-Prowse? Diaby. Start one of Wissa or James Ward-Prowse or Jesus? Wissa. Rate the 4 teams based on best team to worst. All right, I think it was Arsenal, Brighton, Liverpool, Spurs, right? I'm going to try and get your message up again, so let me scroll up the chat. Okay, might be biased. I still think Arsenal #1, Liverpool 2nd. I'd say Brighton, tough one, I think, between Brighton and Spurs, but I think Brighton 3rd and Spurs 4th. I think Spurs have done really well. They're playing really entertaining football. Oh, you said Newcastle as well. But yeah, I think Brighton in general. I don't know, it's just the style of play. You know, whether they go away to United or they're at home to Newcastle, they just always play the same way, and they're very entertaining to watch, and they give most teams a problem. So in terms of ranking them, it's so difficult to say, but I think Arsenal and Liverpool are the best from those you said. I think that's quite clear. And I think Liverpool could even surpass Arsenal. But so far this season, I'd still say I'm more impressed by Arsenal in terms of controlling games, especially today. I think really good performance. But what Liverpool have over Arsenal, I think, is that Liverpool can kill games off. I don't think Arsenal quite have that, and that could be a big problem. Would you sell Son for Diaby? No, I don't think so. Especially if you bought Son this week, I don't think it's worth it. Would it be too early to triple captain Haaland? Not necessarily. Some people did it against Fulham. You know, they reaped the rewards. Forest is a good shout. He scored a hat-trick last year against them, but yeah, it'd be a consideration for sure. But I think Forest are better this year compared to last season. Would you do a goalkeeper transfer if you own Turner and Johnston? Yeah, I would. Not for a hit, but I would do it. Shocking start from me so far in FPL. Early days, though. That's my kind of synopsis of it. I know it's very basic, but I wouldn't think too much of your rank at this stage. Sell one of Saliba, the Doggy, and Colwill for Botman. Colwill. I know he's got the best fixture on paper, but the Doggy and Saliba are much better options going forward. So, yeah, I'd sell Colwill. United should get David De Gea back and play Onana and DM. Yeah, to be honest with Onana, look, it's early days. His distribution is good, but De Gea is a good shot stopper. I know he had his moments, but he was a bit of a scapegoat, in my opinion, last season, and he kept the Golden Glove, for Christ's sake, with Man United. Their home record was really, really impressive from a defensive perspective. Alvarez gets benched next game week, possible, especially with Guardiola saying he's unbenchable, undroppable. Yeah, you know what Pep Guardiola means when he says that. Sterling and Watkins to Salah and Edouard. This is for free. I still prefer Watkins over Edouard, it has to be said, but I know why you're doing it. To get Salah in, it's a good way of funding it, I have to admit. My overall feeling is yes, I'd do it. But I think Watkins is still a good option, and he's better than Edouard for me. Would you sell some for Diaby or Rashford? No, I don't think so. I think Diaby and Rashford are better this week, but unless you're wildcarding in Game Week 7 and you want a one-week punt, I wouldn't sell some. Hey mate, not the best week for me either, but hope you're well. Thank you, Alex. Likewise, hope you're doing well. A lot of us are in that kind of predicament too. Have Alvarez, Haaland up front. What would be a good third attacker for cheap? I still like Awani despite the tough fixtures. So yeah, Awani. Edouard's not bad, I have to say. Maybe I will change my mind about him, but still a bit skeptical, to be honest. But yeah, I'd say Awani if you want a cheap striker. Morris as well for the double Game Week 7. So I'd say Morris first because of the double, then Awani. Can current Arsenal beat Brighton, really? Well, of course. They beat them last year 4-2 away. I know they lost 3-0 at home, but I think it was a chess match. And until Arsenal made mistakes, Arsenal were right in that game. They also had Martinelli come off injured. There was a few circumstances there. Of course Arsenal can beat Brighton. There's no doubt about it. It's just a case of Arsenal maintaining their composure and also not making basic errors. Liverpool are poor defensively but too good in attack. Spurs are insane overall. Look, I wouldn't say they're insane overall. They are playing well. That has to be said. One of the best performing teams so far, but insane is a bit of a stretch. And I still think Spurs defensively can be got at. If they play the same way they've been doing in the first 4 game weeks against Arsenal and Liverpool, I think they could be found out. But that's just my opinion. Let's see what happens. I think they'll be a bit smarter in the North London derby. They'll be a bit more rigid and maybe just focus a bit more on defending and countering because I think that's their best chance of getting something. Look at how that ref tried to destroy the game and Spurs ended up coming back. Yeah, true, but he was poor for both sides, it has to be said. I don't think, McBurney, was asking for, he was basically saying to the ref he was having his shirt pulled, he got a second yellow. Stuff like that is very, very, it's just referees being poor. -4 Son or Sterling to Salah. I'd rather sell Sterling. He's got better fixtures though, it has to be said, but yeah, probably I'd sell Sterling there from those two. Onana, Trippier, Stupinian, Vardiel, Madison, Foden, Saka, Mbeumo, Bowen, Haaland, Jackson, Bench, Sanchez, Henry, Chilwell, Semenyo with 2 free transfers. Which transfers should I do? Your team is in good shape. I think Jackson's the one to sell, to be honest. So yeah, maybe Jackson to... It's tricky because you got Foden already, so maybe not Jackson to Alvarez, but you could consider Jackson out. I'm trying to think of something here. I know Bowen's been good, but I still think there are better midfielders elsewhere, potentially. That's my kind of 2 cents on it. So, yeah, I think what I'd do is really, really tricky one. It all depends on the Champions League, of course, and that could have a big impact. But one possibility I'm considering is Jackson to Alvarez and maybe Foden out to... I think I'd go to... It's a tricky one, I have to say. It is tricky. 2 free transfers. I don't know how much you have in the bank. You have no United midfielders, right? I know they've been poor, but I would consider Foden to Bruno or Rashford. I think Rashford in particular will do well against Burnley. Bruno's better overall. But yeah, I think one of those for Foden and then getting Alvarez for Jackson could be the play. But if not, then maybe sell Bowen. I know that sounds crazy. He's a good asset, but he's one. And also Chilwell out. Could be another. Keep Foden. I think in most cases, yes. But a lot depends on the Champions League, of course. I am done with Chelsea players. I have Chilwell and Sterling, getting rid of Chilwell and bringing in Botman. Fair enough. Yeah, I think C defenders look good, but rotation, bit of a concern. I think Newcastle will rotate too, but maybe not as much. So, yeah, I think Botman or Akanji is your best bet. Who do you think is a good replacement for Chilwell? Botman, Akanji. Not necessarily Saliba this week, but he's a good option long term. Estupinian. I'd also say... I still like a doggy beyond the next 2 game weeks. Cash is good. So you've got quite a lot of options, but I'd say Botman, Akanji or Trippier is up there with game week 6 in mind as well. Have Chilwell, Sterling, Jackson, Bruno, Rashford with only 1 free transfer. No, you don't need to wildcard, but I would sell Jackson, I think, from those lot. I'm also concerned that even if he scores and does well in the next game, he could be suspended for game week 7. That's my concern with him. I got 69 points. I think Gordon's a good choice. I'm not so sure. He has had a decent start to the season. I think he had a good tournament as well for the under-21s. Good shot volume, but I don't think he's a great option overall. Top 3 4.5 million defenders. Well, if I can include players around 4.7, which I'm guessing I can't, then I would have just said a doggy, Rico, Henry, and Botman. But if it has to be 4.5 million specifically and below, then Botman... Yes, this will be quite tough. So give me a second. I was also considering Crystal Palace defenders too. But yeah, let me just get a list now. So yeah, 4.5 million and below, I would say, yeah, Anderson's 4.6 now. Yeah, Botman. Rico Henry, well, or Pinnock. And... yeah, Pau Torres. It all just depends, though. If you can go to 4.7 million, then yeah, you know my answer. I gave earlier, but yeah, I'd target those teams, basically. So Newcastle, Aston Villa, and maybe Crystal Palace around that price point. Who's going to be the best centre-back in the world now? It's too early to say. I mean, there's Araujo, Saliba, Romero's doing well, but I have to say, in my opinion, Romero is one of the best centre-backs internationally. For Argentina, he's always solid. He's only had 1 bad game where he was injured against Saudi Arabia. But apart from that, he hasn't lost a single game. He's kept so many clean sheets. No one gets past him, really. I think Saliba has more potential, so I'd probably go Saliba's got a higher ceiling than Romero. But yeah, it really just depends. Let's try avoid questions about lineups and who's starting. Dylan knows just as much as we do regarding that. Yeah, that's fair enough, Goldhead. I'll still give my opinions, but of course it's all going to be guesswork. I'm not sure. I think Lissandro, even last season, had some very shaky performances like Man United, Liverpool away, 7-0, Man City away. But he is a good player, but I just don't know. The way United are playing right now, no defensive protection in front of him. He's getting isolated a lot of the time. He's playing really poorly at the moment for me. I didn't thought so. Mbumo, sell or hold? He's a hold, definitely. I can get Salah, but would have to have a 5.4 million mid. I'm in a similar position, and that's where the problem lies. You have to get a 5.4 million mid, and then who do you really get? And you're probably weakening your team there. So that's the problem. Thoughts on Wissa for Jackson? Yeah, I still like Wissa. I think he's a good transfer in for Jackson. And of course, you've got Awani, you've got Morris. You've also got Alvarez, who is looking like the best option. Even Edouard, as Alex says. As I said last week in the transcripts video, I'm not too keen on Edouard still, but he is impressive at the moment. You know, he's got good underlying numbers. He's scoring goals consistently, and he is Palace's best asset at the moment. So There's a lot to like there, but I don't trust him long term. I have covered this already, Ashley, so I'm not going to go into too many details, but my main concern long term of Wilson is rotation with Isak, and with the Champions League group that they've got, I think it's going to be a case of one or the other. And instead of starting both, which might have been more frequent if Newcastle didn't have such a difficult group, I just think that really changes the complexion of it. And it could be Isak in the Champions League, Wilson in the Premier League, and then they switch from week to week. So, yeah, I like Wilson overall, but there are better forwards at the moment. Jackson to Alvarez or Raheem to Mbeumo. Jackson to Alvarez. Yeah, that is my preference. I like Mbeumo though, I really do, but I prefer Sterling over Jackson as well. I have Darwin. Do you think keep or sell? I'd say keep for now. 2 good performances back to back. Then he was benched because of the injury during the international break. So yeah, I'd probably keep him. He's got a good chance of starting at least one of the next 2. Of course, you want him to start every single game, but that's always going to be the issue with Darwin. And the only way to have a reliable asset who starts week in, week out for Liverpool is Salah, really. Salah and Alvarez owners where you're... Yeah, I mean, I think that was the big difference this week. Saliba got man of the match, but no bonus points. Well, I think the man of the match was voted by, you know, the community, basically. Those on the app, they vote for the man of the match, so it doesn't really hold too much weight. OS says my score this week was 34 with Turner to play. Yeah, hopefully he plays, gets a clean sheet, and you get 40+ points. Not too shabby, but yeah, it's a poor week overall for a lot of us. I got 2 free transfers, sold Baldock for Botman and Watkins out for Alvarez. I like that. And I want Salah and Wildcard in Gameweek 8 to 10. I think that's a really good way of playing it. And as much as Salah's a really good option, I like him even over the next 3, you probably won't captain him in that period. So there is a case to hold off a little bit longer and then get him in again on the wildcard. Yeah, Alvarez is a good transfer, but wait for the Champions League, see what happens there. We'll have more information. That could be a big concern there. No matter what Guardiola said, there is a possibility of rotation with Alvarez. Keep Darwin, trust me, he'll score next week. Voluntary says, got only 48, Botman was benched by me, sadly. A lot of us did, to be honest, and I said to people I would have probably benched Botman in a lot of scenarios, so it's not really a horrible decision, in my opinion. Looks like Watkins might drop in price overnight. Yeah, that's the thing. There's going to be a lot of people kind of rage transferring, making reactionary transfers, and I'm considering something similar. But yeah, I'm not going to do it just yet. How is Watkins dropping in price when he's still getting returns? Yeah, 3 returns in 4 games, or sorry, 4 returns in 5 games, isn't it? So could have been worse. It really could have. Saliba, no bonus points. Yep, it is Lager. Looks like selling him tonight might be the play. I'd rather eat that price drop and basically have more information later in the week. There is possibilities of injuries and stuff happening. I'd try to hold off. Alvarez is the one I go with. Yep. Also, but what if Alvarez plays the full 90 against Werner Svesda and there is the odd chance that he looks fatigued or you've got that inclination he might not start against Forest? That is possible. That has to be said. Augustin, I'll try, but I'm not so sure if I'll have the time to do it, I'll be honest. So I'm going to have the team selection video up next. That's going to be recorded very soon. And then if I can, I'll do a chip strategy video. But if not, it'll be done in preparation for match day 2, just like I did last year. Voluntary says have Rashford, Bruno, Saka, Son and Maddison in midfield. Doing no transfers this week. We'll then transfer Rashford. Yeah, I'd keep Rashford for Burnley. After that, I think diverging away from double United attack is the play. Jackson for Alvarez or Morris. Alvarez. But he is still a much bigger rotation risk than Morris. Gavardio over Diaz. True, but I think Akanji looks the most nailed on overall. I know he's 5.1 and Gavardio is 5, but Akanji just seems to play every single game. Now watch him be benched, but he literally can play centre-back, left-back, right-back, and he always finds a way into the team. Yeah, exactly, Choco. That's why I'm quite keen to sell him. I'll talk about him in the transfer tips video. Best replacements, I think Alvarez is number 1. I'd still put Wissa in the top 3. Morris because of the double game week, Awani. So that's my top 4. Edouard's looking good, but I'd still say Watkins is above him. So that's my top 5. Edouard probably 6th at the moment. And I know you've got Jesus who's looking all right, but I think minutes is always going to be a concern there with the Brazilian. Yeah, true. Gavardio's another centre-back with a high ceiling. I think Saliba has a high ceiling, but Gavardio, I don't know. They're a similar level at the moment, I'd say, but it's tricky. You know, it's tricky. They're both top quality. But I think Saliba's ceiling is absolutely insane. I might be biased. I do recognise that, but I think his potential is higher than most. Hi, Dylan. Which one is more important, Jackson to Alvarez or Bruno Rashford to Ward-Prowse? Jackson to Alvarez, no doubt about it. I wouldn't sell Bruno Rashford against Burnley. Thoughts on Martinelli and Luis Diaz? Martinelli owners are extremely unlucky. It was possibly not offside, I have to say that. And also, Beto made contact with the ball, and that basically, so no matter if he's offside or not, it should stand. So I think Martinelli owners are very unlucky. He came off injured as well. I'd wait first, but he looked pretty decent in the first few minutes, and he was causing problems. Scored a goal, good link up with Vieira. But yeah, I'm not. My sneaky feeling is that he could be out for a few weeks, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do. As for Diaz, I think he just got benched because he came back from Colombia, so long travel times. McAllister was subbed off around 50 minutes. You had Darwin benched, so I wouldn't be too worried about Diaz. Would you consider Alvarez for Jackson? Yes. I'm not a big fan of Triple C attack, but I think Nottingham Forest at home is a good week to have that. But Forest are better than last year. Best options for Chilwell. Like I said before, I like Estupinian, Botman, Saliba, Udogi, Trippier. They'd probably be at the top of my agenda, and Akanji. So, of course, with Arsenal and Spurs facing each other, you'd probably drop them a little bit down the pedestal and the pecking order. So you'd probably go for a Newcastle defender, Botman or Trippier, Estupinian, and probably, yeah, I'd say the other one is Akanji. Chilwell to Estupinian or Arsenal defender? Well, this week it'd be Estupinian all day long, so Estupinian. Didn't watch the game, but I'm sure you will have. How did Saka play versus Everton? Decent performance, not great. I think Mikalenko did fairly well against them, but Saka, nice little nutmeg on him. Got past him a few times, really good link up, especially in the first half with Nketiah and Odegaard, which almost resulted in a great passage of play. So I think Saka had a decent game. He got the assist, which was mainly because of Trossard, but yeah, I'd say a 7 out of 10 performance. So nothing great, but solid, ticking on nicely. I think it was quite good. One of his better performances this season. Juan says, hi Dylan, which one is more important, Jackson to Alvarez, Watkins, or Bruno Rashford to Ward-Prowse Sterling? We've covered that, so refer back to what I answered. Bayern versus United going to be spicy. Time for Kane to cook. Yeah, I think Kane will score. I think Bayern will win by 2 or 3. I think United will be more competitive in this game than they were maybe against Brighton, but yeah, I still think Bayern win by a few goals. Is Alvarez nailed? Well, according to Pep, he's undroppable. Do you trust him? I don't. I think this is Alvarez's time, though. He's in great form. Even when he's not playing well, he's getting goals or assists. And yeah, he even took a free kick, which almost went in. A really good strike. But with Alvarez, my main concern is that he plays in the Champions League. Then you've got the weekend game against Forest and then the Carabao Cup. So rotation will happen. But I think he will start against Forest. That's my gut feeling. Who does Son cook? Absolutely no one other than Burnley. Yes, fair enough. I remember you saying that yesterday, raising your skepticism. The reason why I thought he was the best captaincy option this week is because he had 2 goals and 3 assists against Sheffield United, and he scored in both home games against them. And I also thought his ceiling was higher than the others. But in the end, Salah, who was my number 2 pick, he was the best of the kind of best options or the most popular options. And Haaland should have got the most points of anyone, really. So yeah, I think Salah and Haaland are pretty much the reliable captains this season. And I wouldn't really look elsewhere at the moment. Saka to Salah, not a bad shout with the fixtures in mind, but I'd still keep Saka. I think he just ticks along nicely. Maybe he doesn't play great, but he gets you 5-6 points most weeks. The occasional 7 to 10 pointer, as he's done on 2 occasions already. So I'd rather keep Saka and then add Salah to it. But if I had to pick between those 2 right now, yeah, Salah looks better. Who would you sell for Botman, Saliba, Stupinian, or Henry? It's really dependent on the injuries, because if Henry's available against Everton, I think he's got the best chance of a clean sheet, at least better than Saliba. So, yeah, my gut feeling is to sell Henry, but if he's available, you might want to hold that move off for another week. By the way, if you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe, and it really helps us out in the algorithm. I can't even speak today. There's going to be much more content headed your way for UCL Fantasy. There's going to be a team selection video tomorrow, and that's going to be a massive one. I expect a lot of you to tune in for that. And also a deadline stream on Tuesday. If I am able to, I'll try to do a chip strategy video for UCL Fantasy 2 this week. But if not, it will be in preparation for match day 2. But there's a lot to go. I also want to prepare the transfer tips video for FPL, best wildcard and free hit team videos potentially, the team selection for that, and of course the deadline stream next Saturday. So there's a lot headed your way. And remember, it's going to be a later Saturday deadline than usual because the first game is at 3 p.m. So we'll be starting around 11 a.m. UK time, maybe 11:30. Tuan says Jackson to Watkins or Alvarez or Isak. My preference is Alvarez, then it's Watkins, then it's Isak. Thoughts on Estupinian blanking? Well, he didn't play because of fatigue with Ecuador and the long travel time, so he's basically rested. I think he's fine. He should start and do well against Bournemouth. Could Pep rotate massively against Nottingham Forest? Possibly, but they've also got the Carabao Cup a few days later. But then again, it is against Newcastle away, I think it is. So maybe they will rotate against Forest, as you say. The thing is, Sven Festa is also quite an easy game, I'd say. The Man City, I actually think Forest will be tougher for them, but they'll win both by quite a few goals anyway. You know how Man City are. But you are right, I think rotation is possible. Don't listen to what Pep says. Alvarez could be dropped very soon, and that is the big concern. I want to say it's too early because he faces Burnley next, showed good signs against Arsenal and Brighton. So I think Højlund's a handful. He's got a lot of potential, and I think he's got good physicality, decent eye for goal, and I think he'll get probably around 10 Premier League goals this season. But more importantly, I think he will link up well with Rashford, if he can learn how to pass, and Bruno Fernandes. Hey Dylan, forgot to add Sterling for a 5.4 million mid. Which one for the next 3-4 game weeks? That's the problem though. 5.4 million mids, what we're working with, that's the big issue. You're not going to get someone reliable. You know, last season we had Andreas Pereira. We don't have such an option this time round. I have a quick look and see if I can unearth someone, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. 5.4 million and unders, pushing it. You know, even Neto facing Luton Town at 5.5, that could be a shout, but otherwise, I wouldn't really go anywhere near Neto despite his good start to the season. Douglas Luiz was on penalties. Apart from that, nothing else. Bailey can get you the odd attack in return. I wouldn't trust him. Gordon could be a decent shout, but he's 5.5 million again. So I'm really looking at these 5.4 million and under midfielders, and I really don't see much at the moment. Yeah, it's a shame Encisu's out for such a long time. But yeah, honestly, you're looking at maybe Neto at 5.5, Gordon, but not a big fan. Bench 2 for next week. The doggy I'd bench, and probably Chilwell. Yeah, I'd start Henry, Estupinian and Akanji, assuming they're all fit. Saka, Odegaard, a good idea to partner. I wouldn't double up on Arsenal. I think one's enough, especially over the next 3. Of course, it was a bit different heading into Everton, but now with Spurs, Bournemouth and Man City, it's a different story. Anthony says, should I buy Alvarez for Jackson and sell Gvardiol for Botman? I wouldn't sell Gvardiol. I know you're doing it to free up a slot, and I think Alvarez in for Jackson's great. It is risky, but I still think it's a good move long term. But yeah, I think from those options, maybe Gvardiol to Botman is the way. It's just Man City have a great chance of a clean sheet. But is Gvardiol going to start pretty much 90% of games? I'm not so sure. And that's always going to be the concern with any City player. Foden actually seems quite nailed on at the moment, but that could easily change at any point. Yeah, it just depends on which midfielders you can go to, but if you can do Foden out to, let's say, Mbumo, I'd rather do that, and then you can bring in Alvarez. I feel Rashford is so selfish. Yeah, even against Arsenal, good chance to pass to Højlund, he didn't do it. But Rashford looked really good in terms of his directness. He caused Brian some problems, and he looks really sharp, but he just gets a bit too eager and carried away, and he should pass sometimes. Is it okay to play both Diaby and Sterling? Yeah, I think so. They can both score in the same game, but I'd probably fancy Diaby a little bit more. Sorry I missed that. What's the schedule? Could we get it posted in the Discord too, please? Yeah, sure, okay. That's a good idea. I'm not saying exactly which day I'm going to post, the videos, but the idea is to do a team selection video tomorrow for UCL Fantasy, the deadline stream on Tuesday for UCL Fantasy, the transfer tips video will be coming along around the Wednesday, and also the best wildcard and free hit team videos around the Thursday maybe. But the thing is, I also got the team selection video. So yeah, all of that will be uploaded in the matter of the next few days. The team selection I think I'll aim to do by Wednesday or Thursday. So there could be some double uploads along the way. So stay tuned. If I have the time and I'm able to, I'll also do a chip strategy guide, even if it's brief, to help those out to set up their matchday 1 teams as well. But if not, you've got that happening next week around the weekend from Friday to Sunday. No matter how good Højlund is, Ten Hag will sub him out. To be fair, it's only one example of Højlund starting and being subbed off early, but it might take some time for Højlund to get those 90-minute appearances, that's true. But I think Højlund will start to pretty much nail on the spot for himself. Best keeper for next 4 game weeks? Tough, really tough, because once again, no clear standout. I think with Alisson, he's kind of a longer-term ploy. So if we actually base it off the fixture ticker, which I referred to earlier in Fantasy Football Hub, so from Game Week 6 to 9, Luton actually are favoured the most, but really the next 4 game weeks, I'd probably say Nick Pope. He's got 2 home games against Burnley and Crystal Palace, and he faces Sheffield United away, and the toughest game there is West Ham away in Game Week 8. So I'd say Nick Pope over the next 4 is probably the best one. Onana, in terms of fixtures, is up there, but you need to see more from United defensively. But yeah, I'd say Nick Pope and Onana look the best for the next 4 game weeks. After that, you're mainly looking at Leno. I'm not sure about the Luton Town goalkeeper. I probably wouldn't go there. So yeah, I think in terms of goalkeepers, I'd say Pope, Onana, which sounds crazy, Leno and Flecken are my top 4, probably in that order as well. If you disagree, let me know. Then I'll give a reason for subbing him out. Yeah, and it does make sense to be fair, but he was causing some problems. Yeah, it looks like Enzo is the penalty taker. He did miss early in the season. I've only seen Enzo take penalties twice, I think, and he missed both of them, but he just never looked that confident, especially the Argentina one. When I saw him do that long, weird run up against Netherlands, I knew he was going to miss. Do you think Chilwell will play next week? Yes. Best game week to bring in Robertson. As good as he's been, I'm still not too keen on him. With Liverpool, I think Salah's the standout. But in terms of Robertson, you're looking at Game Week 9. I think that's the best time to bring him in. Liverpool have Everton and Nottingham Forest at home back-to-back and good long-term fixtures. So Game Week 8, I'd say. Game Week 8 or 9. Sharda, Bailey, Gordon, all respectable options at 5.5 and under. True. But yeah, I think... I'm not sure who asked there. I think he said 5.4 million, and then really you're scraping down the bottom of the barrel. Foden or Mbumo? Next week... tough one. It just depends if Foden starts, but my overall answer is Mbumo. Hold Wissa or swap to Alvarez? I'd probably hold Wissa. Chilwell first, the doggy second or reverse. Chilwell above a doggy, I think, next week. Once again, Rajan, I'm not going to go for a wildcard team today. Foden, Diaby, Foden. Yeah, you said Foden twice. Let me know they're WK bikers and I can answer that. Got 28 points but not feeling bad every year, 1 week like this comes. Yeah, hopefully that's it. It's all down, all done as well. And yeah, we don't have another bad game like this again. But yeah, it is what it is, It happens. Apologies if the type of question has been answered already, but is your views on Doku the same? Or do you think he's a little bit more nailed on? I think he will start most games coming up, and that's because Grealish is injured and Doku's very direct. He offers something completely different to Man City. I am considering in my UCL fantasy team, and I would like to have that second Man City attacker there, as I'll discuss in tomorrow's video. But yeah, I think with Doku, maybe longer term he's not nailed on, but for the time being, for the next 5 game weeks or so, I think he starts at least 4 of those Premier League games. So I think that's my take on it. And with Alvarez, he's playing so well. He's playing a really good... in that sort of role he's playing, only De Bruyne can do it better at Man City. I don't see anyone else really doing it better. Phil Foden, you can make a case for, to be fair, but yeah, I think Alvarez and Doku look pretty nailed on for now, but famous last words with Pep Guardiola involved. I may be a deluded Man U fan, but I could do Wissa to Rasmus next week. Well, Burnley away is a fixture to target, but I wouldn't sell Wissa against Everton unless we get some murmurings of Sharda starting and Wissa being benched, which I thought would happen actually this week. The start of this season has been tough, fighting the urge to wildcard. Yeah, but that's the thing. A lot of people are in a similar boat, and I know you want a wildcard and pull away from the pack, but it could easily go the other way. I don't want to talk you out of it. You've got to back your gut. But my advice to those thinking of wildcarding now is think on it a little bit more. Wait on it, maybe sleep on it, and then if you feel the same way tomorrow, then you can pull the trigger. Thoughts on Wilson? We have covered this question quite a few times, so just to kind of avoid repetition, my concern with Wilson long-term is rotation with Isak, especially the Champions League, the group of death. And that is going to be the main reason why the likes of Alvarez, even though he's a rotation risk as well, you could argue, Awini, Morris for the double game week, and a few others there, even Ferguson, are better options. I think Wissa even is above Wilson in the pecking order. My favourite forwards at the moment are Alvarez, Wissa, probably Morris for the double, and I'd say Awini. They're my top 4 favourite forwards besides Erling Haaland, and I'd still put Ollie Watkins up there, despite his disappointing start. At least in terms of goals, of course. Any suggestions to switch up my midfield? I have Son, Maddison, Mbumo, Sterling, Salas as Toronto. I know you've got double Spurs attack, and you might not be too keen this week, but I think it's still decent against Arsenal and Liverpool. I don't think you need to change things too much, but maybe Sterling's the one. Yeah, it just depends on your wildcard as well. It's difficult sometimes for me to answer some of these questions without knowing the context. How many transfers do you have? The money in the bank? When are you looking to wildcard as well, potentially? Have you used it already? All these things play a part. But if I were to sell one this week, it would be either Sterling or Son. And that's because I prefer Maddison over Son in the long term. But if you're looking to wildcard in Game Week 7 or 8, then you could just make the case for keeping Son and selling Maddison. But yeah, I wouldn't advise either at the moment, especially Maddison. 38 points of Turner left to play. Yeah, hopefully you can get to the 40-point mark. Let's see if he does start. What do you say Saka's nailed on for penalties for Arsenal? I think Odegaard could take the occasional one, as we saw already this season, but Saka should take the vast majority of them. Anthony says Johnston, Gvardiol, Chilwell, Stupinian, Maddison, Mbeumo, Rashford, Saka, Foden, Jackson, Haaland, Bench, Turner, Doggy, Gusto, Asula. How about selling Jackson for Alvarez and Gvardiol to Botman? Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm not too keen on selling City defenders this week, but I think it probably is the right call this week. And you can always bring a City player or City defender back in a few weeks' time and sell Foden as a result. Chilwell to Botman, not a bad move long term. I think Chilwell will start next week, though, if that's what you're worried about. Pick 2, Mbeumo and Diaby. The thing is with Foden, though, as a 1-week punt against Forest, if he starts, I think he's probably the best of the three. But overall, Diaby and Mbeumo would be on my wild card as an example. Welcome, Jack. Hope your weekend went well. Likewise, thank you very much. I got tired of Watkins and went for Alvarez at the end. Yeah, I'm getting to that stage as well. Even Draft Hound and these websites are suggesting that transfer. I am considering it too, but Watkins has been decent. Should we put Wilson in? It's up to you. The fixtures are there. He could start quite a few games in the Prem, but long term, I don't really trust him too much in terms of minutes. We're on the same total points. Yeah, hopefully we can get more in the weeks to come. How can Inter destroy AC Milan? Yeah, Milan had a good start to the season, but Inter Milan have got the number recently. In the Champions League, they knocked them out last season in the semi-finals. I think Lautaro Martinez has a great record against them, like 12 wins, 2 draws, and 3 losses. Yeah, Inter right now are looking really solid. The top of the league, only 1 goal conceded. The Rams scored again. You've got Dumfries and DeMarco providing returns, but DeMarco came off of an injury, so be aware of that if you are looking into UCL Fantasy. I was looking at DeMarco, but unfortunately he came off injured. David Raum from RB Leipzig too. So there's a lot to take into account for tomorrow's video. Rashford selling time, not against Burnley. I'd definitely hold him for that. Chilwell, Jackson, Sterling, Bruno, Wisser, who do I sell? Jackson. He's the one to sell from those lot. Yeah, but Isak is 1 booking away from match ban and Wisser missing chances. Yeah, but Wisser still, he's had a good start to the season overall. He's got Everton at home next. And with Wilson, there's still the possible rotation happening there. You might be right. It could be Isak starting in the Champions League and then Wilson again in the Premier League. That's true, but I'm still not too sure. If you are really feeling Wilson, go for it. Don't let me discourage you, but I'm just thinking kind of longer term, and it all depends on when you want a wild card. Alvarez is the most transferred in this week. May the curse continue. Yeah, hopefully. Unless I bring him in. Is it time to sell Chilwell? I think he'll start next week, and there might be bigger priorities to sell, but it's getting to that stage. I think Jackson's the biggest priority sell from Chelsea. What happened to Simikan? He plays centre-back now. I think last season he played right-back for RB Leipzig, so he's playing a less attacking role. What he has over Raum and Hendricks is the ball recovery, so he is decent still, but mainly for matchday 1 against young boys. Estupinian had, I think he just felt fatigue after playing for Ecuador in the World Cup qualifiers against Argentina and Uruguay. Best Man City defender right now, Walker's captain and looks nailed. Yeah, Walker's looking really good this season, but Akanji, for me, just always seems to find a way into the team. Thank you, Goldhead. I appreciate the the shout out. As he says, let's try to get this stream to 150 likes. That's going to be our aim before we end. We have been streaming already for quite a while. Really? It's been an hour and a half already. Time flies. Don't know why Poch benched Chilwell. Maybe just wanted someone a bit more defensively solid in Colwell there on the left-hand side, but there you go. Do I keep Odegaard? I like Odegaard, but he is a sell, I think. There are better alternatives elsewhere in the midfield. Mbappe, Kane or Lewandowski in Game Week 1. I'll talk more about this in the video and the deadline stream, but Lewandowski is my current preference just for matchday 1. Who's the best Newcastle defender to buy? Botman, as I said yesterday before the deadline. Worth a -4 for a Newcastle defender with a 1 free transfer? No, I don't think so. Of course, facing Sheffield United, Trippier and Botman could get a clean sheet and bonus points, but the defender you sell, you know, you're basically hoping that they blank in order for you to gain points from that. Now, look, it's not always that simple. Overall, as a hit, you're selling someone like Baldock to Trippier or Botman is a worthwhile transfer. But I'm a bit skeptical sometimes with taking hits for goalkeepers and sometimes with defenders. Are you still keeping Watkins? It's not set in stone, but I am considering getting Alvarez in. That's true. The problem is, depends on the Champions League. If Alvarez plays 90 minutes there is the possibility of rotation in the weekend against Nottingham Forest. But I think Alvarez will start. Watkins has not been bad, but his cost is blocking better transfers. Yeah, that's true. I think that's also a main reason why I'm looking at a similar move. Watkins out for Wilson. Not a bad shout. If you back Wilson to get a continued run of starts in the Premier League, then that could be the way to go. I still like Watkins. It has to be said. He's in my top 5. And Wilson's around that as well. But yeah, I'm not so sure. I think for Game Week 6 alone, it will pay off. I think Wilson will score against Sheffield United if he starts, and Watkins against Chelsea, it might be a bit of a tougher game. Picking a Man City defender for UCO is hurting my brain. Yeah, same here. Ake's the cheapest, but is he going to start? I think he had a bit of an injury problem now, and that's why he was benched, but Kanji always seems to find a way into the team. Diaz is the best for ball recoveries, as you say, but he's more expensive. Yeah, I think so, Max. Even going for Morris, Awani, Wilson potentially, Hoyland. I think they're all good transfers in for Jackson, but Alvarez is my favourite. Thank you, Mona, and thank you to everyone else for tuning in. If you've got any more questions, let me know. I'll try to wrap things up. We have been streaming for an hour and a half, and I got to get busy. You know, we've got some UCL fantasy content to record, the team selection video, and we've also got a potential chip strategy guide. If it's not recorded and uploaded by tomorrow, then it probably will be in preparation for match day 2. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Also share the stream around with those that love FPL and UCL fantasy, and that's what's coming up next. UCL fantasy content for the new season. Match day 1 is going to be a great one. I'm expecting a lot of you to tune in for the team selection and deadline streams. It's going to be a great one. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, and the FPL League. And a big shout out goes to the channel members and patrons. Milner is one of the recent additions, so thank you very much. You're recording tonight or having a chill one? Probably tomorrow. I'm going to save my voice a little bit. Wake up early tomorrow, get it recorded, edit, and have it out as soon as possible. But usually for those that sign up as a patron or channel member, you will get early access to videos. Sometimes you'll be a day early, sometimes even a week early. That has been the case with some videos over the summer. Alex says, you reckon Sterling worth to keep until bad fixtures? Yeah, I think so. I think it might be worth it. He's been very frustrating though, and it's very difficult for me to make a case of keeping him, but I'd say so. I think Burnley is a fixture where Sterling can do really well. Thank you, Andy N. I appreciate it. Thoughts on Chelsea, boys, before you go? I think Jackson is definitely a sell. 1 yellow card away from suspension. A lot of alternatives in the forward position. Sterling, probably a keep. Same with Chilwell. But if you've got 2 free transfers, you don't know what to do, then I don't mind selling them to Newcastle defenders or going to Salah or maybe going to Mbumo and transfers like that. But I think Jackson is the clear sell. Watkins is getting into good position. It's only a matter of time. Alvarez, though, so grey on the eye. He's a good striker and passer like KDB almost. Yeah, I think Alvarez is a good passer, but obviously KDB is a different level. You are right. Watkins is having a decent start still. 4 assists, FPL-wise. Very lucky, though, to get the assist in Game Week 5. I don't think it was a penalty. Enzo, I wouldn't consider an FPL, to be quite frank with you. I definitely wouldn't, even if he's on penalties, which it looks like he is. Thank you to everyone for watching. If you've got any more questions or comments you want to pose, leave them in the comment section down below. Take care. Let's get the stream to over 150 likes, and I'll see you very soon for UCL fantasy content.